Let's talk about how to pass your JP Morgan first round video interview. What's up guys, it's Mike from Job Ready English. Today we're going to be talking about the investment banking American giant JP Morgan and how you can pass their first round interview. And there's going to be a little bit of a twist because we're going to be featuring interview experiences from some of our recent viewers from our 2024 video, as well as answering 2 questions that I thought were great from comments also left on our 2024 video. So the way that we do our past interview videos is I'm going to go through some fast facts about JP Morgan, which you can use in your answer to why do you want to work for JP Morgan. Then we're going to talk about what's the interview format for your JP Morgan interview that you can expect. And then I'm going to be going through the most common questions that we came across from our research from publicly available sources. And finally, we'll be ending up with some special cases, which is going to be me running through the memories of candidates who have sat the interview within the past 30 days and were kind enough to leave a comment in our video for other people who are watching it, what we think and how you can answer these questions, and 2 additional questions to answer as well, which I think is really going to help everyone. So let's start off by going through some fast facts about JP Morgan that you can use in your answer. Why do you want to work for JP Morgan? JP Morgan holds the #1 market share in the United States for retail deposits and US card usage. The firm has deployed AI, which has been used in a variety of ways, including fraud detection, to check 1 billion transactions a year and 10 million emails a month. JP Morgan's investment into artificial intelligence is pretty astonishing, with $2 billion invested in the past year and a $15 billion budget for cybersecurity as a whole. Every single day, JP Morgan processes $500 billion worth of payments. JP Morgan now employs over 300,000 people globally, and over 45% of its management team are women. So what can you expect from JP Morgan's interview process? Well, it seems pretty standardized for interns and graduates. Of course, it would be a slightly different process for professionals, and interestingly, this generally seems to be the same whether you were interviewing in Istanbul, in the United States, or in the UK and Europe, which is a higher view interview, a one-way video interview. The number of questions that were asked did vary from 3 to 8 questions. And interestingly, what we found that though the times didn't vary, i.e. you had 2 minutes to answer, sometimes you were given 30 seconds to respond, sometimes you were given 120 seconds to respond. And interestingly, for some internship positions, you were given the opportunity to re-record your answer once. But we did find that most memories recounted that they were not allowed to re-record their answer. So I would assume for safety that you would not be allowed to do that. Let's talk about the 7 most common questions that we came across in our research that you can expect to happen in your video interview. Question 1, why JP Morgan? Now you'll notice that the facts that I've reeled out are not just mind-boggling, but also took a little bit of homework. Now in our past JP Morgan interview pack, we've got 150 facts. And to be honest with you, it's never been more easy to pick out facts about any company, particularly if they're publicly traded, by downloading that documentation and plugging it into some form of chatbot and pulling the facts out of it. I like to use 5 or 6 facts. When you think about it, how quickly can you reel out a number of facts in 2 minutes? Really importantly, I don't want to hear about you. You didn't hear me mention myself once, because it's all about the company and it's about the research. And if you want to put a little flourish, or you really just want to insert yourself into the answer, then talk about one of the facts and why it resonates or moves you. Question 2, why do you want to do this role? So when you're talking about why you want to work in investment banking, as a research analyst, in finance, as a graphic designer, the way that you should always start your answer is outlining exactly what's going to be expected of you. As a graphic designer, I would have to work as part of the marketing team. What I would receive briefs, understand the projects that we're working on across multiple teams. I'd be expected to visit different teams and know what sort of initiatives that we're having to roll out, come back, do initial designs, have follow-up meetings, take on board change, whether that be from a copywriting perspective or from the deliverables for the products themselves, while keeping to deadline and working on multiple projects. What this does is that it really shows that you understand what you're going to be doing in the job. So a good way of thinking about this question is not why do I want to do this job, but do you understand the job that you're being asked to do? Yes, I would have to do these 7 things. Then lastly, which most people tend to concentrate on, but it's really just half of the answer, is what would make you great at this role? What are the 3 skills that really stand out, that are required for this job, that you have and you can demonstrate with some form of experience rather than opinion? So don't just say that you have great numerical skills. Provide something like the fact that you've got a first in an undergraduate degree in mathematics that shows that you have the proof to back up your opinion. Question number 3, tell me about a great personal achievement. Now, there's going to be different schools of thought about this question. Personally, whenever I'm dealing with people in one-to-one consults, I always like to choose an answer that is real, that moves the person that they are genuinely passionate about. And I've heard so many wonderful answers, and to be honest with you, many of them have got absolutely nothing to do with work. It could be getting grade 8 in a musical instrument, having a piece of poetry published. It could be going to a different country to study and leaving your family behind. But what you can do is really outline why it's a great personal achievement based upon the difficulties that you had to overcome. For example, if someone was to say to me, what is one of your proudest personal achievements? I'd have to say it's starting Job Ready English, but that's not that interesting unless you know the backstory, i.e. that I'd spent 4 months in Asia and had a professional contract writing in Asia, and I decided that I felt pretty lonely. I wanted to come home. There was an idea of mine which I wanted to entertain, where I would go back to the countries where my parents came from, and that maybe I'd spend my life wandering around Asia and meet a nice woman and get married and all of that stuff. But what I found is that I really craved to have a bigger impact. I craved to do something a little bit more different. I came back to the UK, but I'm honest with you, I didn't have a ton of money left, and I decided to invest that into starting this business because I wanted to help more people. It was something that I was passionate about, and if I'm really honest, it's something that I'm good at and that I know how to do, and that is one of my biggest personal achievements. What you'll notice there is that I've set the context, I've outlined why it's important, and also the challenges that I had to overcome to do that. Question number 4, tell me about yourself. Now, what I want you to imagine for this question is that there is somebody in front of you at a party who you are dying to impress. It could be Jamie Dimon. It could be somebody who you respect personally, or in your sporting life, or in your professional life in general. And this is really the opportunity to say, hi, my name's Mike. Here's what I'm doing right now, in a sentence. Here's what I've done in the last 3 to 5 years, in a sentence. Here's my work experiences and why they'd be relevant to you in terms of how I could help you. Here's why I've done stuff outside of work and study, my extracurricular activities, my voluntary efforts. Here's my skills, here's my interests, here's where I'm good at IT, here's where I'm good at languages. And finally, here's something that's just really interesting about me that's sure to start off a conversation, or at least get somebody to raise their eyebrows, go, really, that's so interesting. Tell me a little bit more about that. I'd be dying to know more. So this is the root of a great personal introduction. If you want a free worksheet and a more in-depth breakdown, then search Tell Me About Yourself Job Ready English, where I go into this in great detail. Question number 5, tell me about a time when you had to come up with an innovative strategy to solve a unique problem. Okay, so what do we mean by innovative? Just means new, and it doesn't have to be brand new. It could just be a new sequence, or it could be a new mixing up of old ideas. And really, this could be anything. This could be in your academics, this could be in your professional life. Now, when you're answering competency questions, something that I really like teaching people what to do is something that I call star stories. These are the best stories from your life, from your work, that you can use to answer lots of different competency questions. And it's something I go into detail in our Pass the Interview course. But basically, I want you to think about a work example, if you can, because this is a job interview, where you've just solved a problem which was difficult. Maybe it was just hard work. Maybe it was painful. Maybe it involved working long hours, working with somebody who you didn't really like. I find a lot lot of times when people are posed with competency questions, they tend to overcomplicate things. What I really like to do is say to people, what's the first thing that came to your mind when I asked you that question? They'll blurt out a single sentence. I think, that's it. Give me a little bit more. Tell me a little bit more about that experience. And that's really going to help them develop that answer. It's not about finding the perfect answer. It's about finding an answer which actually genuinely you care about, you're interested in, and you're going to be eager to share when you get this question come up in your interview. And when you're breaking down the important skills in terms of problem solving, I think for most people this is pretty obvious. Understanding the question, finding the relevant information, looking for people, places, and resources that can help you, making a plan, enacting a strategy in terms of the what to do or the tactics, which is the how to do, to reach a result. Question number 6, describe a time you worked as part of a group and what the result was. Now this is a bog standard teamwork question, and I think it is really great if you can use an example from work. If not, probably it's going to be a group exercise that you did at university. Now, a few things that I want to point out about this question. First of all, please be specific. Don't say, there was a time when I was at university and I was working with some people and we had to do a project and it went really well, the end. Because it is a terribly boring story. Something that we're trying to do in interviews, which not a lot of people talk about, is just get better at telling stories. If we can be compelling in our delivery and we can influence other people, it's much more likely that they're going to favor us. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be successful, but we're going to have more of a positive impact on them because we're changing the way that they feel. So when you're talking about teamwork, talk about the specific people, the places, the individual things that you had to do, the minutiae, the little, replying to a text message, sitting with somebody one-to-one, having everybody over for dinner. These are the things that really make stories interesting. Not talking about it in a general way, not mentioning where you were, who these people's names are. That's not an interesting story. Question number 7, tell us about a time when you had to go above and beyond for a project or a customer. Now, being exceptional or being extraordinary means you do more than the ordinary, or you are an exception to the rule. So I think it's really important to lay out maybe what normally you would have done or what normally people would do, and then what you did and why you felt that it was a good idea for the project, why personally you felt that it'd be good for the person, and what you did to go above and beyond and to talk about the results. So time for a bit of a different part to the video, because I want to go through some recent examples. Now, if you sit your interview and you have watched this video, I would love it if you would come back and leave a comment for other people. Over 100,000 people have watched our videos just for JP Morgan, and people come back, they respond, they get jobs, and also they leave little breadcrumbs for other people. And I think that's so cool. I would love it if you would do that for somebody else and to pay it forward. So here are 2 recent memories, which I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about and add on to the questions that we've already discussed. So this one's from Shannon. I was asked 3 questions just this past month. Why JP Morgan? Name a recent article you read about a market trend and name a difficult task that you faced. Okay, so first of all, a recent piece of business news. Now, all of you, if you want to work in an investment bank, in professional services, just in finance in general, if I'm being really broad, then you should make sure to have the habit that you're keeping up to date with business news. The best way to do this, newsletters. Look, you can look at stuff on your phone, you can follow people on TikTok who you think are really interesting, but to be honest with you, it's probably too much information. You don't really need to be digesting that content every day, but I find a newsletter that comes out once a week or a summary of news that is delivered where you can sit down and really chew through a couple of good articles once a week is more than enough in terms of commercial awareness. The second thing that I want to mention about this is don't choose anything that's too big. Think microeconomic, not macroeconomic. So something that's affecting a company or something very specific in a country, whereas something that's affecting a continent or the entire world, that's really difficult to fit into 2 minutes. Make it small, make it interesting, and make it something that you believe that you could have a conversation about because it's not boring. Next up, we've got SAF, 3 questions, highlights of an industry you're following, a situation where you faced a roadblock in a problem that you were trying to solve. Okay, cool. So very similar industry highlights to do with commercial awareness, but maybe a little bit more in depth. Just means that you're keeping up to date with things that are going on. And a roadblock is very similar to overcoming a problem. We are really just trying to be very clear in terms of outlining the challenge that you faced and how you were able to overcome that. A good way to look at answering this question is don't think about telling someone, think about teaching them. I often find when people struggle, particularly if they're very bright or very process driven, they think, well, I mean, I don't really know how I just did it. Do you know the feeling? But if you say to someone, okay, now I want you to imagine that you're teaching someone to do it. And they're like, oh, I'm teaching someone like a little kid. And then that really changes the way that they look at the problem. So here's 2 other questions that really just jumped out at me that was left on our JP Morgan videos. Question number 1, how should I take a higher view after I receive it? Now, I'm assuming that Alyssa just got the higher view and she wasn't given a deadline. I always say 5 days, no more than 5 days. 5 days is more than enough time. I lay it out in our past the interview packs. 2 days to research and get your scripts together, 3 days to practice your mocks, get ready to do that higher view interview in 5 days. What if you said to me, well, I don't feel ready after 5 days? Okay, but the longer that you leave it, the more likely that job's going to disappear. People are taking that interview all the time. You're not the only person who's received that invite. And question number 2, I have a higher view interview for their product manager graduate scheme. Do I still need to learn more about the investment lingo? No, you don't need to learn about the lingo, but you do need to know about the business. It's always important to know about the business that your business is involved in, because that's what you're going to be working in, whether you're working in administration, HR, sales, marketing, operations. You need to know what the business is all about. If you're not interested in that business, it's going to be a difficult sell for you to get the job. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I know that it was a little bit different today. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Going to be releasing loads more past the interview videos this year. Good luck, and drop me a comment down below if this video was helpful, or if you did the interview, come back and let us know what happened. Was I wrong? Let me know. Bye.